One nation now seemingly divided after a deadly week of officer-involved shootings. Protests happening across the country after two black men were shot and killed by police officers in Minnesota and Louisiana. Those shootings also sparked the deadly police ambush in Dallas, where a black man targeted white police officers. 5 officers were killed in that sniper attack. And in Houston, 2 HPD officers shot and killed a black man in Sunnyside early yesterday. Police say he was armed and pointed the gun at the officers. However, witnesses believe the situation could have been handled differently and want to see the body camera video. In the wake of the shootings, who can heal America? And why does our country's racial divide seem to be getting worse? That's our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page and on Twitter. Use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us live in the newsroom is our senior legal analyst, Chris Tritico, former Harris County Democratic Party Chair Jerry Bernberg, and Republican strategist and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. Good morning to you all again. We'll send it over to you.
Good morning. You know, I've watched this unfold this week, and we watched it go on for a very long time in our country. The divide seems to be growing and growing and growing, and it seems to me that when we have these problems, we come together for a short period of time, and then we square off into our corners and point fingers, and we have speeches, but we don't continue the discussion. And I think that's the problem, is we need to change our discussion. We need to go from rhetoric to real discussion, Jackie Bally. And moving forward, we need to go into real discussion about solving racial issues in the United States. We need to go into real discussion about solving problems of policing and guns and violence.
Not just real discussion, but also real action. We talked about community policing, and Jerry's correct. We've talked about it in the past, but you have to be aggressively active in doing this. You have to be aggressively, the way the mayor immediately got our faith-based leaders to pray with our police officers, that's something you need to do continually, not just the one time that this has happened. I'm very happy the mayor took that step and he moved aggressively forward, but we need to help him and our leaders to continue that movement. We need to have our officers to continue to go into the community. I don't want to see, the only time I see an officer in an African-American community is when they're being called because there's a robbery or because there's something bad. We need to have them proactively involved in the community. And that means, as an African American and as a black person, we need to accept them in our community in a healthy way, someone that we want to partner with to make our community better.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to disagree with you again, as I did earlier, when you said...
You're not invited back at all.
Oh, good. 6 o'clock's very early to be here. When you said that there's a growing divide, I don't believe there's a growing divide. In fact, I think the contrary. What I do believe is there's growing awareness because of social media, because of various digital means we have of spreading information more quickly. I think that we're more aware of it than we have been in the past. I wanted to throw in a piece of information that maybe the viewers aren't even aware of. I'm a member of the City of Houston's Independent Police Oversight Board, IPOB, which is a group that anytime there is a police-involved shooting, or for that matter, an incident of allegations of police excessive use of force or any of those sorts of things, is referred to this independent group of non-police officers to review and to make recommendations to the police department, to the mayor, and to others, so that there is transparency, so that there is oversight. This, I believe, is one of the reasons why in Houston we have not had the sort of problems that we've had elsewhere, is because there's been proactive intervention at the citizen participation level, which helps to mitigate
I agree with that, because we're the 4th largest city,
right,
and we rarely have these type of issues in our city as opposed to cities like Chicago, where people are saying take away our guns. And Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws, yet you have black men killing other black men. You have a very high crime rate in that city. And whenever you do 3 things, you denounce hate groups, you work with your police officers and you support them, and you're also proactive as groups like Jerry just described. Cities like Houston, cities like Sugar Land, you rarely, if ever, will see the kind of confrontation that you see in other cities.
All right, let's go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
We're going to head over to our Facebook page and take a look at what some people are saying right now as our show is going on. Noe says, ignorance is among us. That's where all this racism comes. People need to be educated. Stop targeting people because of their skin color. He goes on in his comment there. Ryan says our leaders need to stop blaming a race. Hold the person accountable for their actions. Show respect for others and their property. And Kenneth here says, when will the police stop and get involved with the people of the community they patrol? Stop and meet and greet. Get out and introduce yourselves. He goes on to say we need more positive people in our community, and he uses the hashtag good cops, be our voice, and hashtag Black Lives Matter.
Well, you know, I don't think anybody here on the panel disagrees with most of what that last tweet was. A pretty long one. How did he get all that in there?
It was a Facebook.
He's a fast.
Oh, Facebook. That was Facebook.
Twitter.
Okay. It was Facebook. Okay. It was only 149 characters. I don't think most of us disagree with what he just said. The problem we have with a city the size of Houston is when you want to have community policing, it's hard to get out of your car and walk around a neighborhood.
It's very hard for the officers. They're doing a lot. They have a lot on their plate, so it's hard to do that. But of course, we want to encourage them to do that more often. I want to touch on something else that the second comment that was made. I've complimented the Mayor Turner, for his leadership and his response. I'm going to use an opposite example, Hillary Clinton. Whenever she responded to this, it was race baiting. It was horrible. She did not support our police officers. Instead, she said, well, these are certain things that black people face. How about saying that this one particular man was an extremist? We've all discussed that. He is not a typical African-American man. He had hatred in his heart. Let's talk about that instead of saying, well, you know, all black people feel this way and putting it into a large group instead of race baiting for votes. It was very disturbing. And I like the way that Mayor Turner, as an exact opposite, was more about uniting.
I'm going to resist trying to do that in 8 seconds. Amongst other reasons, obviously, you know, I disagree with that substantially. I think that this is not the morning to talk about the political ramifications and implications and whether this presidential candidate responded properly or that one did. I think this is a morning for coming together, for prayer, for praise, and for figuring out what I think you just did the opposite of, quite honestly, Jackie, and that's figuring out how we're going to come together, not how we're going to go apart.
If we have people like her as leaders, if we have people like her as leaders who are saying these things publicly, and she said it the day after this horrible tragedy, for us to escape it and say that we are not going to be political, I think we're escaping the true issue here.
We got to leave it right there. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week, Sally, wrapping up the hottest stories of the week.
All right. We wish you all a very good week.